Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Connect series, remote version. As you can see, we're all working from home as we record this. My name's Nick Smith. Normally we have Adrian here, but I'm finally going to be able to get some good questions in without him taking over the whole conversation. I'm really excited. We have Mark and Vihang here today. Mark is from our BLE team. He's one of our marketing experts. Vihang is from our Wi-Fi team. He's one of our marketing experts on that team. And today we're going to talk about where connectivity is commonly seen in the medical field and what the advantages are of Wi-Fi and BLE and even maybe combinations of the two. So thank you guys for joining me. And I thought maybe to kick it off, Vihang, you could, give us a little backdrop of kind of where do we see connectivity used in the medical field. It's such a big field. You have home healthcare, you have hospitals, you have all kinds of things. So tell us where you typically would see connectivity.
Sure thing, Nick. Thanks for the question. Where we see medical applications for connectivity is mostly hospital-related use cases. That would be in-hospital medical equipment or patient monitors, or applications that are more targeted for home healthcare. So like a hospital-to-home model where the hospitals would prefer to send non-critical patients for home healthcare to keep them away from other diseases in the hospital. So those are the kind of applications where we see you have a patient monitor connected to the patient that might be connected to several patches, several sensors on the patient's body for vital sign monitoring. And at the same time, this patient monitor hub will be also connected to internet. So physician, health experts can see the patient's vitals remotely and also do conference calls with the patient to understand how they're doing, and also try to minimize the patient interaction as much as possible.
Okay. Yeah, it makes total sense, and that's helpful because, when we start talking about medical, my head automatically jumps to in-hospital, but I kind of forgot the other part of it that you mentioned where it's more of home-based healthcare applications, and I could see why connectivity would be, a really big benefit in that space as well. And so, Mark, I'm just curious, as we look at some of the specific products or things we're familiar with in medical, what are some of those products and use cases where you see connectivity being used?
Yeah, for sure. So when it comes to BLE specifically in medical, there's really such a wide variety and a wide range of different end equipments that we could talk about this all day long. But alluding back to what Vihang mentioned about patient monitoring, one neat example would be for a wearable temperature patch. So we actually do have a Connect video on this. It's a neat hands-on demo that you can check out. But for this type of application, the patient would be wearing this patch and the data would be transferred to a smartphone or a tablet, something easy for the doctor to see, for me to see if I'm at home. And for this type of application and many others, when it comes to BLE in medical, there's really two key advantages, and that's low power and small size. So when it comes to low power, of course, you don't want to have to be constantly switching out devices or recharging batteries. And alluding back to the Connect video that I mentioned with the demo, for that use case, we actually got about 5 days of battery life from a tiny 35 milliamp battery. So really way longer than you would need for this type of application. And when it comes to small size, we have options in our portfolio that get down to 2.7 by 2.7 chip scale package. So super tiny. Of course, as a patient, I want this to be as least invasive as possible. I want the battery to last, and that's really where our devices show their advantages.
Yeah, that makes sense. So in a patient monitor, or you're saying, a patch where you mentioned a couple things, small size, very low power, because I guess a patch is battery powered, some features like that. So can you maybe tell me a little bit about what TI offers that from a BLE perspective that fit well into some of those use cases and those traits that you were describing?
Yeah, for sure. So when it comes to small size, we have options in our portfolio like the chip scale package, which can get down to 2.7 by 2.7 millimeters. So really tiny. Again, you want it to be as minimally invasive as possible for the patient. And going to the low power, I'll use the example from the Connect video that I just mentioned. In this use case, we can generally get about 5 days of battery life off a tiny 35 milliamp battery. So this is way longer than you would need for this type of application. And we have options in our portfolio such as a sensor controller, which can help you get that low power and extend the battery life. If you're running on a coin cell battery, you can even get years of battery life. So it's just really beneficial for these type of applications.
Okay, yeah, and we've also had a previous Connect guest discuss the sensor controller, so check that out if you haven't seen it. But yeah, thanks, Mark. It makes total sense. It seems like the medical space has some unique needs to make sure you're as minimally invasive to the patient as possible. And some of that includes, the longer battery life and the small size and the items you discuss. So it makes sense. And Vihang, I'm wondering, what are the differences on the Wi-Fi side? So what kind of applications do you see Wi-Fi go into specifically in the medical field?
Yeah, so definitely. So on the medical side, the Wi-Fi applications are, if we talk about the patient monitors, where we have several sensors connected to a patient monitor, and that patient monitor is kind of uploading all the data to either an in-hospital network or a home network for remote healthcare. So in that case, that cloud connectivity, we see Wi-Fi being used as a key enabler for that. And the key requirements there would be for in-hospital networks. There are some specific requirements imposed by the hospital administrations to limit what is allowed over Wi-Fi and what's not. So one of those requirements is support for dual band Wi-Fi. So that means operation in both 2.4 gigahertz band and 5 gigahertz band. So your normal Wi-Fi traffic doesn't interfere with the patient critical data. So 5 gigahertz support, that's definitely a must for hospitals. Another requirements we see are around security for both in-hospital and home healthcare uses, where the patient's vital data is a critical piece of data that needs to be secured end-to-end. So not only the device-specific security features, but network security, where we see key features like the latest WPA3 enterprise encryption standard, and also having a device, a Wi-Fi controller that is FIPS certified to make sure that the patient data is secure, and it gives you a kind of a peace of mind that the Wi-Fi solution you're using, if it's FIPS certified, it's gone through rigorous testing, and it offers a reliable and secure connection for your Wi-Fi network.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So it sounds like there's a lot that centers around reliability, having the dual band, the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz, and then obviously security. And I know, there's many different classes of Wi-Fi device. Can you talk about the different TI Wi-Fi offerings and how they fit well into some of those medical applications and requirements that you described?
Yes, absolutely. So we have two main families of TI Wi-Fi devices. First one is WiLink products. These are the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth combo transceivers that connect to a host processor. So these are ideal for use cases where you require both BLE and Wi-Fi in the same system. For example, connecting to patches and sensors over BLE network and using the Wi-Fi in the same system to upload the data on the cloud. So that built-in Wi-Fi and coax combo solution, WiLink family, that's one. The second family that we have, it's slightly different. It's Wi-Fi solutions, but that's where we have a wireless MCU offering, where our CC32XX family of devices, they integrate an application microcontroller and a network processor. So network processor does a little bit more than just acting as a transceiver. It includes a TCP/IP stack, and that allows you to use the application processor completely for your application code. So that is well suited for use cases where you need a microcontroller and a Wi-Fi chip all built in one, and that's also ideal for battery-powered applications.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, it sounds like on both sides, from the BLE side, from the Wi-Fi side, basically from the use case side. There's some unique requirements in the medical field, and the TI portfolio can offer solutions for those requirements, like a very small size, a very low power BLE device, or a Wi-Fi device with multiple options, higher end Linux MPU based or battery powered, more embedded Wi-Fi solution. So I really appreciate you guys laying those out for me. Mark, just a quick question. If somebody wants to get started with TI's BLE solutions, where should they go today?
Yeah, for sure. If you go to ti.com/SimpleLink, you can see our portfolio of connectivity devices. And in there, we have our BLE devices, and you'll be able to see our portfolio really scales from really basic BLE attached type devices all the way up to higher performance, higher memory, all those kind of options. So really good range of products that we have there.
Great, yeah, and Vihang, same question. Where can they go to learn about both those Wi-Fi families that you described?
Yep. So the place to go would be ti.com/Wi-Fi. That's where we'll have both of our product families that I talked about and how each of them are suitable for various medical applications.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you joining remotely and discussing the medical field. There's a lot of interesting applications for both BLE and Wi-Fi, and specifically some interesting ones that are popping up right now. So thanks again for the overview there and telling us how to get started. All of you guys, thank you for joining this episode of the Connect series. As always, we have more great content coming. We have more experts, more demos coming on. Be sure to tune in for those. Everyone, take care. Thank you.